Hi guys and welcome to Dial It Up. Today we are going to be talking about the huge change that has been made to the entity's possession trait. So last week we talked about equipment and how that is now just going to be something in the game. And I also talked about briefly keywords. It was mostly something I just kind of mentioned without explaining what I was talking about there. And that is, now we're going to be looking at key phrases. It's something that we've always had in the game, is just Heroclix game language. And that is just certain key phrases and words in the game that don't always mean the same in real life as they do in the game. So we talked about equip and effect and how those are just going to be the key words for when you have a piece of equipment. Now, why I'm saying this is because the entities and their possession trait have now become equipment. So they have all now been errated to have both the equip and effect words. And if you look at the errata on the official WizKids rules forum, you'll see that a lot of the wording on it has been really cut down because they're starting to use these key phrases. One of them is standard characters, so you don't have a huge list of all of the characters that can't be possessed. And the other one is a linked dial. Now, a linked dial, same thing that the possessors used to do, and that is click along the same way that the possessed character clicked, matching the clicks each time they either were healed or took damage. Now, instead of having to write that out on everybody's card, now all they have to do is say link the character's dials. So now getting into the entities. They work essentially the exact same way that they worked before. The dials still move. They still KO the same way that they did before. And they're still allowed to either pick a power and a stat. As well as Ion, you're still allowed to pick 2 powers and 2 stats. That part hasn't changed. As well, all of the entities are still giving the keywords that they did before. Now, these are the War of Light entities. The other entity that we've seen so far, the Jocasta from Age of Ultron, she also still has the robot and armor restriction to her possessor, but she doesn't give any keywords. She never did before. She still doesn't give any keywords when she possesses someone. Big difference about this is that when you are possessing a character, they are now considered equipment. So they're no longer considered characters. The big points on this is that they give the keyword their respective Lantern Corps keyword, they won't count towards a theme team. So their own personal keywords aren't going to break a theme team, and they aren't going to count towards theme probs or the initiative roll at the beginning of the game. They also can't be affected by anything that would affect a character, and they will be affected by anything that affects equipment. Also, because they are not considered characters, they're not going to interrupt or disrupt certain characters' traits like Black Adam or Black Swan, who are dependent on being the only character on your team. Before, because they were considered characters, if you possessed those certain characters, it would mess around with that trait. They would never be the only character on your force. But now, because when they become equipment, they're no longer considered a character, those characters will now activate and be able to use their traits properly, even if they are equipped with a possessor. The other thing that I want to touch on is that if you actually play them at their full points, actually play them on the board, and then they're KO'd, they will become equipment and possessed like they used to. But the keyword change in there is that they are KO'd now. Before, they used to be listed as would be KO'd, which meant that you wouldn't be able to score them if you KO'd the full 100 or 75 or 225. You wouldn't be scoring that when you KO'd them because they would be classified as would be KO'd and then move on to being a possessor. and then you wouldn't be able to score it until you KO'd the character that they were possessing. But now, because that has been taken out and just changed to when they're KO'd, you'll actually be able to score them, so that kind of doesn't keep you from being able to reap the rewards of all of the effort that you put into killing them in the first place. The final thing that I want to touch on with these entities becoming equipment is that you're only ever allowed one equipment at a time. So no more double possession. It wasn't really a big popular thing, but it is something that you could have done in the past with the way that they were worded. They actually went around out of their way to say that you could have more because it was worded one of the possessors you pick a stat or a power from. But now that's just not an option anymore. You're only ever allowed to have one piece of equipment, which also means that if you are possessed, you won't be able to use any other equipment that might be on the board. And if you do, the original equipment will get KO'd. Likewise, if you had them as a full character on the board and then you want to possess someone that's already equipped with something, you have to KO the first equipment to be able to bring on the possession. So that was the big errata. Not a lot has changed functionality-wise. It's just that now these are classified as a different type of game element, and there are certain rules that go with that game element. If there's anything that you think I didn't go over, any questions, comments, concerns, down below, and we'll see you next time for another episode of That Up.
Married with Clix is brought to you by Majestic's Heroclix sales down in Costa Mesa, California. Right now, they're in the middle of storefront change. In the meantime, don't forget to check out their eBay store. If you check the link down below, they always have great Heroclix stuff at fantastic prices, and they'll ship just about anywhere.